80-75, surviving a really good Sweet 16 game. JD's got 3 hats on. We've got 3 wins. We're moving on to the Elite 8 in what was a game of runs, JD. I mean, this game, there were multiple double-digit runs in this game. Started off with a Duke 11-4 lead. Then it was 19-15 St. John's. Duke got to 35-28. Then St. John's goes on a run. They close the half up by 1. St. John's opens the half. They're on a 8-2 run, 8-4 run. Maybe more than that, actually.
Might have been 8-0.
Yeah, I think it started out with 5 points for Duke and then an 8-0 run or more by St. John's.
Yeah, it was 5-0 Duke and 8-0 St. John's.
And then they were able to stretch it out to a 9-point lead. And then is where I felt
they got it to 10, Jack.
And that is where I felt like John Shire was able to make some adjustments. Because
when he went to the zone worked. It made it very difficult for them to continue their incredible, actually, a really good pace from the 3-point line.
For who?
For St. John's. And the zone helped to slow that down.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to get to, in that the zone was a great adjustment by Coach Shire and what was billed as a game between, a coach with a lot of experience and a young coach. You have the guy with the most wins, who of the remaining 16 coaches, and the coach with the fewest in John Shire. And I thought that was a great adjustment by him going to that 3-2 zone, which has now saved Duke twice in the NCAA tournament. And additionally, I mean, there's a lot of things to break down from this game, but I also felt like St. John's not going back to Ruben Prey for a coach with as much experience as Rick Pitino was an error on his part. I don't understand. That guy was the difference maker. He was the difference maker, giving St. John's the lead at the end of the first half. He got off to a really good start at the beginning of the second half and was playing good defense as well. Only played 13 minutes, had 12 points, 4 threes, 4 for 4 from 3 was Ruben Prey. And I felt like him not being out there, he was a threat. And I know Duke was in the zone, but Duke didn't have to cover Dylan Mitchell, for example, in the zone. I know he hit his first 3 of the season in the first half, but they didn't have to guard him with the same gravity as a Ruben Prey, who had 4 threes. But I think for me, the story of this game is 2 Duke players. Ultimately, Caleb Foster. I can't believe the guy was out there.
I would like to have his broken foot, however he broke it, and then be able to recover to play a superb second half.
Couldn't have won this game without him. No chance. He scored all of his points in the second half, clutch buckets, and
he went on a 7-0 run.
Stabilized the team. Completely stabilized the team. Was able to handle the pressure from St. John's, bring the ball up. I know there's the time he got caught for the 10-second call, but it seemed like some of that was when he tried to accelerate, the burst just wasn't there. He was reaching back for it, and he couldn't get to the 4th gear. He just only had the 3rd gear to get it across. And it seemed like on the replay it was close, but neither here nor there. And then finally, and saving the best for last here, this was Isaiah Evans. What a performance from Slim. Clutch shots, drives, the step back 3 he hit towards the end of the second half there. After, I believe, we hit a 3, or we took the lead. Hopkins goes down the court, hits a 3, a tough 3. I thought it was good contest by Caden. And then we're down 2. And then Evans responds with the step back 3, and then Cam follows it up with the and one from further out than he normally hits his shots from in that mid-range area. But Evans, just a phenomenal game from Isaiah Evans, who's started off slow first half of the Siena game, but has played really well since then. And this was one of his best performances of the season. You could argue his best performance of his career, given the circumstances involved in this game against a very good St. John's defense.
When you get to the stats, Jack, it's hysterical that we're going to say Isaiah Evans, really with his 25 points and just incredible shooting, he combined with Caleb really won the game. But you'll read Cam's stat line later, and you can make an argument that we still needed him to do what he does.
Oh, absolutely. He is such an enigma in that sense, in that you can watch the game, say he's not having his best game, and then by the end of it, he'll find his way to get some shots in around the rim. He'll get to the free throw line. He'll get his rebounds. He had more turnovers than you'd like. The defense was a problem. I think going to the zone. I've thought there have been times towards the end of the season his defense has been better. Tonight, I thought he played pretty poor on that end of the court, between giving up open threes and then not defending well inside. I think going to the zone really helped him. I think it enabled him to just play positionally sound and then rebound the ball. And as I haven't looked yet, but I'm sure he got close to his 20 and 10.
Oh, he got 22 and 10, Jack.
There you go. And
But Jack, and as long as we're showering some love, Malik Brown.
That's where I was going next.
Okay.
I mean, wasn't as effective in the second half, but the first half, he was really. Dame also played well. The two of them played really well defensively. Malik wasn't quite the North Carolina game, Malik, but it was close. It was close. He was.
Jack, 8 rebounds, they credit him with 4 blocks and 2 steals, and as we all know, countless deflections.
Multiple offensive rebounds. How many offensive did he have?
I don't have. You'll have to.
Okay, I'll get that. I just thought his ability to guard Ejiofor from the beginning, he made things difficult for Zuby, who they're about the same height. Zuby's got 15 pounds listed weight on him, and he just did not. Zuby could not get into his post position, and then he could not hold the ball outside. It was getting tipped. It was getting deflected. Malik did a tremendous job, and then Dame was doing a really good job roaming off of Dylan Mitchell. And then the second half, they took him off. They put Cam on Mitchell to try to mitigate some of Cam's defense. And then St. John's got out to a good start. I mean, for a long time, the story of this game was the shooting for St. John's, who was 9 of 18 from 3 in the first half. They cooled down the second half. I got them at 4 of 14 in the second half, if my math's correct here. And it was.
Well, we were hoping that it was going to catch up to them, and it did, especially when Duke went to the zone.
Yes, it was guys who typically don't hit threes. Some of this was, Dylan Mitchell, I would leave him open. That was part of my game plan in the preview. But some of it were guys who were capable of shooting threes that were left open. Bryce Hopkins had one open one early. Who else? Dylan Darling had a couple of timely ones. He hit, when it was 11-4 early for Duke, he hit a deeper one, and then they got a steal off the inbounds, almost another steal off the inbounds, and that gave them life, and that's what led to their run. And then when it was 35-28, Darling hit a late 3 in the shot clock as well. Mentioned Prey before. All of his were wide open. I know he doesn't shoot a lot of threes, but he shoots a high percentage on the ones he takes. And he was a guy I kind of highlighted in the preview as better than what his numbers suggest. And then, it was, I mentioned Mitchell, Hopkins, Prey, Jackson hit one in the first half. Darling hit a couple. And then Ejiofor were really late. So they slowed down. And to your point, the zone really helped. It stopped them from hitting threes, and that's what enabled Duke to chip away at the lead because it wasn't 3 points of possession, it was 2 or 0, and that really enabled Duke to get back into this one and then eventually take the lead and win it behind, their horses, Evans and Cam.
I was thinking we should go to the stats because there's a couple of things that jump out.
All right, let's do it.
You ready?
Yep.
First of all, I've been there all season. We shot 15 to 24 from the free throw line, and 5 misses were big Pat's. Clearly, he was not well from the free throw line, or overall, it was not his best performance. And they remember when they almost fouled? We didn't know why they didn't foul him.
Well, Raftery made it seem like they were fouling him, but on the replay, they clearly were not.
Nope.
And it was a tough call because there was a 20-second differential with the shot clock, and they were down by 3. If they were down by 4, I would say definitely foul. But down 3, they're in the kind of in-between area. But with the way Pat had shot the ball from the free throw line, he had an air ball. Most of them had hit the front of the rim. It probably would have made sense to foul him in that situation. They didn't. Duke ends up with, at first it was when Cam gets the 1-and-1 there. When on the TV angle it was, how's that a foul? There's nothing there. And then they show the opposite angle. Cam's jersey, the guy had a fistful of Cam's jersey. Cam's jersey that had a tough night. By the end of it, yeah,
that will be a
collector's
hole. Item.
Yeah. And he misses the front end of a 1-and-1 there. To your point on the free throws, to me, Pat gets a pass just because I'm happy he was there. It was really, and I know Cam finishes the game 8 of 9, so it's really hard to even be mad about his free throw shooting. But he misses the front end of the 1-and-1 there as a timely situation, and then Caden, a few minutes prior, had missed the front end of the 1-and-1 as well. And those were the two I felt like could really come back to bite us. You mentioned in the preview we had shot over 80% the first 2 games, expected us to come back to earth a little bit, hoping we'd be above 70, 75% is what you said.
Yep.
63% was almost going to be one of the reasons that Duke did not advance. But we're able to get even Slim went 1 for 2.
I know. We said money.
That was the number one guy I would want at the free throw line. But fantastic game from Isaiah Evans. 25 points, 4 threes. It's just exactly what I thought could happen, hoped could happen in this game. He was tremendous. Cam Boozer, 22 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 turnovers. I think you said he had 1 or 2 rebounds at the half as well.
1 at the half.
So he really got it going. You mentioned Malik's stat line. The guy was everywhere. It was one of those games where it felt like St. John's at the end tried to get not deliberately, but they had 6 guys on the court. If you asked them how many Malik Browns were out there in the first half, they would have said there were multiple. He was just everywhere. Dame, 2.6 rebounds, 3 assists, and a steal. Dame, in true Malik Brown fashion, his impact went well beyond the box score numbers. I thought he had a really good game. Caden, 7 points, a couple of rebounds, 3 assists, 2 turnovers. He was mostly good against the press for St. John's. There were a couple of times it got to him. It got to Cam a couple of times as well. Big Pat, 3 points, 2 offensive rebounds, 1 assist, the 1 for 6 from the free throw line. You mentioned that before. Nick, 4 points and a rebound, 1 turnover, which was early when I think it was Foster, was wide open, and then he didn't pass to him. And
he made the wrong pass there.
He tried to force it in there. However, I will say for Nick, when Duke started to turn this game around, It was Nick at the top of the 3-2 zone who was doing a
Yeah,
really
no,
good
I
job.
think over other than that one play where he couldn't inbound it and it resulted in a turnover, I thought Nick's minutes were fine tonight.
Just fine. I couldn't believe Darren was part of that group when they were making the run. I was completely surprised that he got into the game, and then I thought he was okay early on in the zone, and then as the game went on, I was like, he gave up a three there. He could have gave up a three here. He didn't quite have the positioning down in the zone. And then, boy, Caleb Foster. I mean, I thought he might play 8 to 10 minutes. He scored 11 points, and they were huge. 11 points in the second half, all in the second half. 3 rebounds, 2 assists. What a gutty performance by Caleb Foster, who in many ways had no business being out there. I can't believe he played in this game.
It just his 7-0 run by himself was incredibly important because it came during that period where St. John's had built a 10-point lead and it was feeling like it could get out of control. And Caleb was great. I'm sure, Laura will be on.
Well, Laura's at the game. So I don't know.
That's right. She can't be on, but shout out to her for the minutes that we got from Caleb Foster in this game and schooling us at the beginning to believe in Caleb Foster.
Yes. And
all right, man. Jack, what are the medals?
I'm going to go. Well, first is easy. The gold is Isaiah Evans. That guy was unbelievable. Some of the shots he hit in this game were ridiculous. The mid-range pull-up 2, the step-back 3, the ability to drive into the paint and score like repeatedly. He had that. There's that also the one. It wasn't. It was one of his easiest looks of the game. But the pass from Caden early in the second half, where Caden drove deep and then was able to, he was going to lay it up, but then he didn't have a shot. Threw it to Evans, who was wide open. Just a big-time performance from Isaiah Evans, who hit 4 of Duke's 5 3-pointers in the game. Pretty wild.
All right, Silver?
I'm going with Caleb Foster. I can't believe he played. He was that important to the game. He controlled the tempo in the second half. I just thought he was extremely vital for Duke. And then the Browns and going Cam Boozer. He still got his. I think I probably should switch them. So I'll say Cam for the silver. Caleb for the bronze is my final answer, which leaves Malik off, which doesn't feel good. Does not feel good. But Cam and Isaiah had 20 points apiece, and Caleb had 11 points in the second half when Duke really needed it. And Malik was awesome. And I think Malik, he'll be all right not getting the medal, knowing what we know about Malik.
He already got his 6th man of the year, defensive player of the year.
Yeah, he'll be okay.
He's all right.
He'll be okay. All right. Let's go to the chat, JD. So, all right, we had a bunch of people in as the game was going on, so we're going to skip over those and jump to Laura saying, Elite 8, here we come. The game was awesome. The feel of the arena is great. And Trop Uniform, how about them? What a great game, but dang, too close.
Really? I think we're going to have to just get used to it, that they're, we play to the level of our opponent, and what was St. John's was what, a 5 seed, 4 seed,
5 seed, but played much better.
They are not a 5 seed. They are not a 5 seed. This was going to be one of the toughest tests, and they're all. I mean, let's face it. From now on, here on in, they're going to be. I don't know the outcome of the UConn Michigan State game. If it's UConn, that is Duke's nemesis. in March Madness. So, and then it,
Also, I believe the last time we saw, could be wrong, but I think the last time we saw Michigan State in March Madness, they hit the game winner over the year with Zion, even though we beat them this year. And we've had their number more or less overall, but still, it's hard to beat a good team twice. And I think no matter what, we're going to be looking at a very tough game. Monk Sambu, that mini takeover by Caleb was key, especially after we went down big when Prey hit his fourth three. Prey was awesome. The Listen, the Scooter Boys. We had a big game against TCU from Pat. Good game from TCU from Pat against TCU from Pat, and a huge game by C. Foss in this one. That guy. Every time you listen to Shire talk about it, it was, I've never seen someone take as many shots as Caleb Foster has off of the scooter. And as soon as he got hurt, he said, you got to give me an opportunity to come back and play with this team. And so if you're out there and you're watching and listening, please subscribe to the channel. Drop your comments in the chat. We'll try to get to as many as we can. We're going to try to get to this UConn-Michigan State game, so we may not stay as long as we typically do. And please like the video. We appreciate all of your support out there. Tropic Uniform, speaking of Foster, how about Foster? What a champion. Working really hard to get back. People kept saying all week, oh, the injuries, shaking my head. Pat is back, and you kept saying, don't y'all know Foster could be ready for this game? He was always my X factor, said it all year. Meant to say, kept saying it all year. He was unbelievable. And one thing I want to say, JD, I know you said before we played to the level of our competition, which was true for a portion of the year, but after the North Carolina loss, we played well above the level of our competition until the injuries. And since the injuries, we've had to do what we can to win each game.
And that's, look, I mean, Arizona had a statement game against Arkansas, winning by 30. I just want to win by 1.
They did. I think it's also they're amazing. This is not a slight at them. I just think it's also convenient. Everyone seemed to forget they were in a close game with Utah State, where they were only up by 4 with a handful of minutes to go, and it wasn't talked about in the same way as Duke TCU for the national media was much closer than Arizona Utah State is where the point I'm getting to. But they were dominant, and it was a good matchup for them against Arkansas, who doesn't have the most formidable front line. RW Forsh, Pat was absent. Caden made some bad plays. Free throw shooting was atrocious. Advancement. Yeah. Hey, survive in advance, right, JD? Is like what you say. Just got to win by 1.
Got to win by 1.
It also looks like Michigan. They were in a close game, but they're up 13 with 2 minutes to go here against Alabama. So they're looking to move on. The big 3 seem to be moving on. Mungsan Bu. Oh, yeah. No, sorry. One more from Tropic Uniform. St. John's was shooting the lights out first half, especially that guy Prey. Couldn't miss. Even Mitchell hit one. When his went down, I got worried. I'm like, might be their night. I said it was their night when that went down. I could not believe that Dylan Mitchell hit a 3. It's just not his game. Monk Sambu, so many candidates for play of the game. My personal favorite was Slim's 3 to put us on top 70-69. The lead Duke never relinquished. I agree. That was my play of the game as well.
I felt going down the stretch that we had to be up by at least 3, because this game just had the feel of them hitting a 3 to put it into overtime. And if we were only up by 2, a 3 to win the game. And I just those last couple of foul shots were driving me crazy. because it could have stretched the lead.
Yes, it was close. Tropic Uniform, who are we pulling for in the Michigan State-UConn game? We beat Michigan State in their place early, but they're also playing much better. On the other hand, wouldn't mind seeing UConn either. Think we match up well. What do you think, JD? I'll give my answer next.
Um, Given that your mother is sitting and watching her team, which is UConn, and the history in the tournament is that UConn took us out twice. I sure would like to play UConn and be on the winning end of that. So I prefer UConn.
I prefer UConn strictly for basketball reasons. I think it's a better matchup for Duke in some ways. Michigan State, I think UConn is the better offensive team, and I think Michigan State's the better defensive team. They've got multiple bodies to match up with our bigs, which is really our strength. They can match that to an extent. And then obviously everything goes through fears. With UConn, there's a lot more movement and cutting offensively. They're more dynamic offensively, but I don't think they're as good defensively. And Terrace Reed is a monster inside, but outside of him, they don't have much of an interior presence. So I do think.
I also think Michigan State would be highly motivated to try to, get that win back.
Agreed. Agreed. Brody Swing. St. John's left Earth tonight. The shots they were making were so ridiculous, I eventually just had to laugh. Only Duke. Only Duke. Well, it's an interesting one because I remember when we played Florida State the first time, a lot of people were like, man, they just hit a lot of tough shots. Not much we could do. But then we played them the second time, they did the same thing. That's just what Florida State does. In this one, I didn't think St. John's was hitting a lot of tough shots. A lot of them, frankly, were open.
We left them open too many times.
But they weren't statistically. They hit well above what their average was, even finishing the game at just over 40%, which is above where they typically shoot. So it's not like they hit a lot of tough shots, but they hit more than they typically do, certainly from three. And as Caden said at halftime, had to stop giving them the dare shots. Actually had to start guarding them. We didn't really start doing that until we went to the zone. That zone has saved us here in the NCAA tournament. Tyler the Eggs, 3 more wins. Yes. And then Archangel Cephas family show. Yeah, he was awesome. Brody Swings. Evans 3 with the defender draped all over him was shot of the game. Foster also had one of the all-time greatest performances in Duke history. I hope he's able to continue to play. Speaking of that, it was incredible. I wonder how his foot is going to respond here because it's a quick turnaround. Not much time. You get one day, and then you got to play again sometime. Sunday, it may not be Sunday evening. It might be Sunday afternoon.
Right, the games may be earlier on Sunday.
Yeah, so I'm a little bit worried about that part.
I am, and I certainly want, at this stage, you're Elite Eight, you want all hands on deck. But I have to say that coming into this game, the pressure of St. John's was, relentless. And, I felt like, okay, this is where we needed a good version of Caleb, and we got more than I ever could have imagined out of him tonight. So I think but the next game, I don't know if the pressure will be, whether it's Michigan State or UConn, whether the pressure will be as intense.
There's one other team, that I can think of off the top of my head, and they do it differently. Like Houston, they don't pressure you full court, but they trap the ball, consistently. It's different than St. John's. No one plays like St. John's does. in terms of full court pressure, trapping the ball, making like the fact Duke had, what was it, 9 turnovers is very impressive.
It was below St. John's average of having the ball turn over by their opponent. Yes, I'm going to go back to the Arkansas team in the 80s, 40 minutes of hell.
Well, they're not playing right now, JD. They're not. Well, number one, they were eliminated by Arizona, but they don't have
No,
this. They're not out there.
but
I'm talking
I'm
about
making
who
a
we could play.
reference, just making a reference to the idea of a tournament team that played 40 minutes of intense. They just pressed the entire game, and it was very effective for Arkansas.
Yes, but the question was, okay. Um, William Powers. That's where they are better. Oh, teams can shoot out of their mind against this team, and they still find a way to win. This was a great game. This team is special with just their poise. That's where they're better than last year. Poise. I just don't know if they'll be healthy enough to get through this gauntlet of teams. Yeah, they. It's great that Pat and Caleb were out there. They don't look like themselves. Well, Pat does not look like himself. Caleb played great, I should say. He played great.
And I'm surprised because Pat played well last game and he had 5 days off.
Yes, but my understanding, reading between the lines, is that Pat is not really practicing.
Yeah. Okay.
That's my very limited understanding of what's going on there. I don't think he is practicing very much. So I think they're just trying to keep him so he can give, 15 minutes, which since he's been able to play 15 minutes, we've gotten the Malik Brown that we used to see consistently. And if that is what Pat playing does, that's all we need. A Chop uniform. I never want to hear anyone say Shire can't coach. He did a great job mixing it up down the stretch with the zone and three-quarter court press, etc. Yeah, he I don't want to say he outcoached Patino because I don't think that's what happened. It was a very close game, but he matched him. And then it was down to the players and their execution. And Duke's players were able to hit more shots as the game wore on.
The only thing I'll say is once he went to the zone, I would have thought Patino was prepared for that the way that Shire has used that zone in the tournament. And therefore, it didn't seem like they had a really good answer to that, and that they were going to go to. So in that regard, that one element of Shire going to the zone and over an extended period of time, St. John's didn't seem to really have a good adjustment to the zone.
I don't think they really had a great answer, though, within their roster because they don't have somebody who's like a great mid-range shooter, to put in the middle there. And for as great as they shot in the first half, they're not a great three-point shooting team. And so they don't have great answers for a zone is part of it. And then I ultimately, going back to what I said at the beginning, I think Ruben Prey would have helped playing a little bit bigger. If you have Prey out there instead of Mitchell, then you can put Zuby in the middle, Prey in one corner, Hopkins at the other, and then your two guards. I think that could have been more effective for St. John's.
So that was one possible adjustment that he could have made, and so
that's the thing I would love to. I'm very curious if he's asked about why he didn't give Ruben Prey more playing time in the second half, because I know typically he played 13 minutes. He's typically around 10 minutes a game, so it's not like he's a guy who typically plays 20 minutes and they only played him 13. But in March, sometimes guys have hot hands, and you go with them. And, this is a Rick Pitino last year when they were in the round of 32. The Big East Player of the Year, R.J. Lewis, was 3 of 17, and he benched him. So he's got no problem, benching his best player. So I don't think he would not play him because he's not one of his main guys. I'm very curious as to
Well, but
why.
he also played good defense.
Right, right. I don't know. BK 300 800. Keep stacking the hats, JD. I thought the free throws were going to lose the game.
Ugh.
Yeah. Michael Joyner going to the final 8. We're going to be there in the Elite 8. Andy Rounder, let's go. BK says one more win, and I'll be at Indy with the boys. That would be awesome.
Oh, nice.
Good for you.
Sweet.
William Powers, Caleb gets all the medals, in my opinion.
They were down 10, and he goes on a 7-0 run. I mean, it couldn't have been more timely.
Let's go Duke, Caleb Foster, Andy Rounder, Caleb with that veteran leadership. Caleb, yeah, a lot of love for Caleb Foster, and rightfully so. I mean, that guy stepped up in a big way, in a big-time moment. Still can't believe he played. Timothy Hester, UNC High Heels have to root for another new next team. It reminds me of the Florida fan. Did you see this one, JD? Probably not, actually. I should have just told you. There's a Florida fan. I'm sure some of you guys caught this. He was enormous. Like, think of like Brock Lesnar, okay? But bigger arms. So he was at the Florida-Iowa game. They showed him, in the stands. They lose. Iowa goes on. They play Nebraska. He's at the Nebraska game. He's got on a Nebraska jersey. He still got on his Florida hat, And they lose, so I wonder if now he's going to go – who does Iowa play? Illinois. So I wonder if he's going to go in an Illinois jersey now against Iowa. Yeah. Yeah, Andy Rounder. St. John's defense is relentless. Credit to them. St. John's played really well. They played really well. I mean, they shot the ball incredibly well. They did a lot of things. They did a lot of things right until Duke went to the zone. And I wonder if Duke should get to the zone a little bit earlier. We keep going to the zone in the second half. Like, I wonder if we should start mixing it earlier. But at the same time, if we mix it in earlier, will they adjust? At this point, we've got a few games of tape, though, to your point from before.
Well, but strategically, Shire, all he has to do is show the zone and mix it up without staying with it, as he did in this game where, it seemed like the zone was there for like 10 minutes.
Well, yes, and then once Malik came back in, we went back to man. It's one of the things I think our guy Jay Lucas does a really good job of. It'll be, all right, here's 3 possessions of zone, 2 possessions man.
Yeah.
Back to zone. All right, a few possessions of man. Like, just mixing up the looks makes it really difficult because you don't, oh, okay, we got to run our zone offense. Oh, wait a second, they're in man. You make, the processing comes a little bit slower then.
Especially since the zone has been so effective.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Muksambu put St. John's in another region. They're going to Final Four. I'd be fascinated what they would do in that South region. But the man, it just seems like beating Michigan or Arizona, Duke healthy for sure. We're not quite there, but we're getting there. It just seems like a tall order. They just they're on a different tier than the other teams. Um, BK says, I wish I could find a medal for Malik because he was excellent tonight. I agree. I had a tough time not giving him a medal, but felt like Cam had to get one because of. I mean, he wasn't his best game. But he still was. We don't. I mean, there's about 5 guys. Duke doesn't win this game without, but Cam was certainly one of the best 3. Yeah, you got to. I have to give it to him, and I know that's what you're saying as well there. Let's see. Brian Jones, John Postgame really got to me, man. Caleb is his guy. You can see how much Caleb meant to us tonight. Pure grit, love it. Yeah, I can't wait. Can't wait to watch that one because Caleb Foster sticking it out with this Duke team from last year, where we've talked about this before. A lot of guys would have transferred, and then willing his way back and being absolutely vital for them winning this game in the Sweet 16. I'm sure it meant a lot to the team, but especially Coach Shire. And Ryan says gold Slim, silver Caleb, bronze for Malik. That's perfectly fair. Perfectly fair. I don't mind it leaving Cam off here. No arguments there from JD. John Smith says the media and stupid people saying Duke couldn't handle St. John's. Come on, all year this same noise has been said. Yeah, just kind of used to it at this point. They TCU, we were the most vulnerable 1 seed. They were right. A 1 seed did go down, just got the wrong one. And then the amount of people who pick St. John's for all the wrong reasons. They're going to be more physical. They're the better defensive team. In this game, Duke was the better rebounding team. They were the more physical team. And the only thing that kept St. John's in this game was their three-point shooting, which is not what any of the people who picked St. John's would have said.
No.
It's just crazy. Trap uniform. I wish Cam would find his 3-ball a little more. Notice he hasn't been shooting as much lately, but maybe that's because the defensive looks, but still, that's a good call out. I think he is going to need it. Munk Sambu, this was a great test for us. Absolutely. Creston Davis, I think we can beat Arizona for the chip. As you say, JD, we got to get there. All we're worried about is Michigan State or UConn.
One at a time. And remember to subscribe here. Lots of new people joining the chat. We love to have you here. It's great.
All right, let's pick out a few more, and then I'm sure like a lot of you guys, already have the game on. We're gonna go watch the game. Ryan Jones says Nick showed a lot of heart tonight as well. He's the guy you need to win a championship. Really gave us an energy boost defensively. He played really well. You said that before, JD. I really loved his performance. AJ1, glad we played the schedule we did. Never panicked down by 10. St. John's shot out of their minds in the first half. Without threes, St. John's would have been down double digits at the half. Yes.
A little less because we couldn't hit free throws.
True. Andy Rounder says they need to auction off that Cam Boozer jersey. Yeah, that would be cool. Adam Dowd, Caleb Foster, the man. Let's win on Sunday and make our 19th Final Four. If we were to make the Final Four, JD, it would be our 3rd Final Four in 5 years. That's pretty impressive. I feel like that's a fair, that's one game away, I feel like it's a fair one to bring up.
Don't you dare.
Just statistically.
I hear you. And I know that we want to think, really good thoughts about everything, but we play them one at a time.
Creston Davis says, imagine when all the Duke lineups gel. May happen on Sunday, but it will happen in the championship game. Hopefully it happens Sunday. We gotta get through Sunday. Andy Rounder with a good play call out here. Caleb's lob to Pat was awesome in the moment to welcome him back. Welcome, yes. And then also for Pat, who I know it's his second game, but feels like is still getting his rhythm for sure. Good call out there. Swisher says, my main takeaway from this is I don't think Michigan State or UConn are as tough as St. John's, and I'm looking forward to the Elite Eight. Yeah. UConn, they went back and forth, but St. John's won 2 of 3, and they won the last game handily. It really never got close. Michigan State is interesting. They've been playing better of late. And as you said before, they're going to want that one back. And Duke isn't quite as healthy right now. So,
yeah, to your point about Big Pat, he shot 1 for 6 from the free throw line, and he's a 67% free throw shooter. And I'm going to say, if that foot, I think you're right, Jack. That foot is not right, because when he goes to the free throw line, you still kind of push off. Otherwise, you're just shooting with your hands, and your whole rhythm of your shot is messed up. And that could be one indication that he is not right.
Holy smokes. UConn is up 21-6 on Michigan State through the first 9 minutes. A lot of time left, but man, we could be setting up for a bloodbath here this Sunday in this household, JD. Man. Let's see. Well, let's pick out a few more. Man, we got a lot of people in the chat. Appreciate everybody joining us. Switcher says Cephas might be one of my favorite Duke players, tough as nails. Creston Davis, Duke Medical gave Duke a chance. Great call out there. Great call out.
A shout out goes to Jose.
Yeah, Jose, everybody. Jeremy Farrell, stack those hats. Go Duke. Shout out to you, Jeremy, for the hats idea here. We're rocking and rolling.
We certainly have more, but not because we stacked the hats in anticipation. Just collected them over the years.
That's right. That's right. Man. Tons of people in chat. Salute to all you guys. Appreciate you guys joining us for the post-game show here. Man.
You can't believe my phone.
You got a bunch of texts, huh?
I have so many texts from people just thinking perchance I may have been watching Duke tonight.
Yeah, good game. Really great game, honestly. Back and forth, runs for each team. I thought it was a really well-played game on both sides. GMAT, Elite 8, here we come. Doesn't matter how much we win by. Hopefully we'll get more effectiveness from Pat and Cephas after they're back longer. Gutsy performance by Cephas, though. Good to hear from you, GMAD. And yeah, now I got to cheer for the women's team as well. Joe M. I'm out celebrating right now, but I just want to stop in to say let's go Duke. I love Caleb Foster. Malik Brown was killing it tonight. Bring on the next one. Hit that like,
Thanks for
everyone. Thanks, Joe. Thanks for checking in.
thanks, Joe. Thanks for jumping in.
Yeah. Um, M. Saunders, Michigan State has a point guard that can control the game. That's why I prefer UConn. Fair, fair. I mean, it's 24-6 now through 10 minutes. This is wild. Not. I thought it was gonna be a very close game. Um, I saw one from. If I can find this, this was a funny one. Swisher says Grayson Allen was a much better tripper than Jeremy Fears. He's giving him a run for his money, though. Jeremy Fears is. You want to know what? Grayson might be a better tripper, but Jeremy Fears is a much better nut shot taker. He's right up there with Draymond. He's had 3 or 4 this year. So
And I wanted that reminds me for some reason of the play in which remember they came back in and they said the refs were checking to upgrade it to a you know technical
oh yeah,
and,
yeah, the one on Jackson, who he
and
starts in his chest.
remember we said from the we didn't see anything, and then they showed the other angle and he pushed him and then went right up in his face. It was like,
And it was one of those ones where, like, we talked about this. Like, sometimes the big guy gets caught for a flagrant one where, like, they're moving their elbows and they hit like a smaller guy because it's accidental where the smaller guy, their head just happens to be kind of at their elbow height, right? It's not like
right.
intentional. This was the opposite where you have a smaller guy push up into Pat's face. And unfortunately, Pat couldn't hit either of the free throws there, so we didn't gain any advantage from it other than we picked up a foul, which helped us get into the bonus. But that didn't really help us. We were bad from the free throw line. So, man, we got lucky. Man, okay. ND Rounder says Patino didn't put Prey in the second half because he got outcoached, and says Michigan State is a second half team. Yeah, that's true. They've been able to make some big comebacks this year. Steven Keel says free throws are a possible loss in the upcoming games. I know JD's been talking about that all year. My thing is this team has just figured out a way to win each game, and they do play with fire at times, but they seem to do what they need in that particular game. So, for example, the first game with Siena, they couldn't hit a shot. They were settling for threes, but when they started getting to the line, they were 85% from the free throw line. And then
I think in both games they were like close to 19 for 22.
Yeah.
It was insane.
The TCU game, they didn't necessarily need it as much, the final margin there. It was close for the first 30 minutes or so. But Siena game, they really needed every free throw that they got. In this game, it certainly would have made the margin a lot more comfortable if we could have hit more. And granted, if you take away Pat, who's clearly not right, the rest of the team was probably around 70, mid to high 70s. But they just seem to figure out what they need to do in each game to win. And in this game, it was rebounding, it was playing the zone, and offensively, especially as the game wore on, but throughout the whole game for Isaiah Evans, but as the game wore on, getting the ball to Cam Boozer and letting him go to work. And they were able to get it done. And then just playing really good defense. I know St. John's hit a lot of threes, but they just don't shoot that well typically. So I feel good about where this team is at heading into the next game.
Well, and with regard to the free throws, which will always be my thing that I go to since, you go there and you're uncontested. But you said during the game that when we missed some key free throws, there were two shots in a row that made up for it. One was that incredible three from Isaiah, and then followed up with he was like 2 or 3 feet further away, Cam, and he banked it in and won, and he was further away than normal. So those, you said that kind of cancels out a couple of missed free throws.
Yeah, it helped. It sure helped. All right. ND Rounder, I will take a look at that Michigan State second half line. That's a good idea. And then Creston Davis, we'll wrap it up here. Thanks for the show. I appreciate you, Creston. And then asks, have we thought about doing a live show during a game? I've had that thought. I would probably have to do that one on my own, just for technology purposes. Well, best to do these post game with JD here. And I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I get too wrapped up in the game, and I want to be able to dissect it later on with you guys. But it is a good thought. It's something we can definitely think
Maybe
about.
you could do a half.
Yeah, try like a first half next time. Think about it for Sunday.
Okay.
If you guys are interested, let me know. We'll put it in the
Comments.
Yeah, put in the comments. For this or the preview, which will drop for UConn or Michigan State early tomorrow, because we won't know who we're going to play. Although as of right now, it looks like UConn. It looks like UConn, JD. It looks like UConn. They are up 27-12. 7 minutes to go in the first half. So Michigan State, 15 points. That's a lot of time. They can still work their way back into it, but it's not really what they do. They're not. But they have been pretty good, in fairness, second half. So I could see them making a run. We'll see if UConn can hold on here and win it. All right. With that, we're going to go watch this UConn Michigan State game. We will have the preview for the winner of this game and the Elite Eight. JD, can't believe we're here. The Elite Eight. Final 8 teams. Only 8 teams will remain after tonight, and Duke is one of them. How about that? Well, how about this, JD? I know I made the comment before about the Final Four. It could be 3 in 5 years. It is 100% 3 Elite Eights in 5 years for Duke. Pretty impressive. Pretty impressive. Major credit to John Shire, who you look around, North Carolina, Kentucky, when they've gone from one of their coaches to the next guy, they haven't been able to replicate the same consistency. North Carolina had a great run to the championship game in Hubert's first year, and then they missed the tournament. Then they made it to the Sweet 16, and they lost in the first round back-to-back years. And John Shire, what he's been able to do, picking up from Coach K. The first year, there were some rocky moments. I can remember those pretty vividly. But he's been able to steadily build a true contender, and here we are, Elite Eight.
It may help just a little that they were able to bring in Cooper. Can't remember the last name.
Some guy named Khan.
Yeah, and then this year, Carlos's son. I mean, he did have some pretty good guys on the court, but what did we say from the beginning of the year? If you take last year's team and the starters go to the NBA, and you've got to figure it out all over again, and he's in the Elite Eight with a completely different, there's some consistency, but not really, especially the way the injuries went. So glad he got the ACC Coach of the Year. But
he's
what
one
an
of the
incredible job.
4 finalists for the National Coach of the Year. Do you want to guess who the other 3 are really quick?
Tommy Lloyd.
Yes. who I do think is a serious candidate for the North Carolina job based off what he said. Go on.
Um,
You should be able to.
I'd probably give it to either Nebraska or Vanderbilt.
Nebraska, Fred Hoiberg is one of the others. And I think you can get this last one. You may not remember his name.
In the interest of time,
Dusty May of Michigan. So the three best teams, their coaches, and Fred Hoiberg for what he did at Nebraska. I think if Nebraska had finished the year a little bit better, I think he should have got it. But they didn't quite finish the year so hot. They did end up in the Sweet 16. Don't get me wrong. I think it's going to be between one of Lloyd, May, or Shire. And I think
depending on probably who goes further. I don't know when they do the voting.
yeah, I think it right. It's a good point. I don't know when it's done either. So, all right, enjoy the rest of your evenings. We'll be back tomorrow morning for the preview for Michigan State or UConn, and looking forward to continue dancing, JD. Hopefully, we can stack another hat.
Stack another hat.